Baseball is back as spring training has just begun, and there's a lot of talk from really bad jerseys to the next wave of prospects about to make their major league debut. 2024 is shaped up to be the year of the rookie, with many players like Junior Caminero of the Rays, Jackson Holliday of the Orioles, Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford of the Texas Rangers, and many more top prospects slated to make their major league debut and have a huge impact at the major league level this year. Spring training has been a showcase for a lot of these players, and it seems like most of them are ready to make a huge impact at the major league level right out of spring training. Baseball fans are generally familiar with the big names I've already mentioned, but that doesn't mean they're the only players that are able to make a huge impact heading into 2024. In this video, we're going to explore 5 names that you might not be super familiar with who could end up being huge contributors to their teams this season. These are players you're going to want to watch out for as spring training progresses, as they've all had really good starts so far and show signs of being very good players who are going to be able to make their major league debuts this season and have a huge impact for their respective major league teams. As always, it would really mean a lot if you can subscribe to the channel. It really helps my channel grow, shows that you like what I do, and will get you more content not only from me, but from awesome baseball creators out there as well. Also, go ahead and answer the question of the day in the comments, and today's question is, who do you think a breakout prospect in 2024 spring training is going to be? Without further ado, let's dive into 5 players who I think are going to break out in spring training this season and what their impact can be for their major league teams. There's no doubt that Jackson Holliday is the name to know in the Orioles system this season, but Coby Mayo is a name that is rapidly rising at prospect ranks, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him make a huge impact this season. Mayo was drafted in the 4th round of the pandemic-shortened 2020 draft by the Orioles out of Stoneman Douglas High School and signed for an overslot $1.75 million. Coming out of high school, Mayo took a little bit of time to adjust. He didn't do poorly by any means in the minor leagues in 2021 and 2022, but it was more glimpses of success than sustained success long-term. However, in 2023, he absolutely dominated, reaching AAA at age 21, hitting 29 home runs and an OPS just shy of 975. In my opinion, and in a lot of evaluators, Mayo's best tool is his power. He could very easily have 40-50 home run potential on a good year during his peak. He can go ahead and hit absolute bombs playing third base for the Orioles. The third baseman has really good raw strength at 6'5", 230, and incredible bat speed that allows him to get a lot of lift off the ball and get really high exit velocities, often near the top of the minor league leaderboards. The biggest concern for Mayo has always been his swing and miss. He has always been a guy who strikes out a little bit too much, as he doesn't have a great hit tool. It's his power that really carries him. However, he changed his approach heading into last season, really dropped his strikeout rate, reduced a little bit of that swing and miss, and started to walk a lot more, and that has scouts and evaluators really excited that he could be an average hitter in the major league level. You put a decent average with a bunch of power, and you're talking about a guy who you are very happy sitting in the 4th spot of your lineup, and the Orioles have a very potent lineup. Mayo is primed to drive in a lot of runs in the coming season. Defensively, there are still a couple question marks about exactly where he's going to play. He's not a great defender at third base, but his calling card is his arm strength. He has Matt Chapman type arm strength. He can fling the ball across like nobody's business. He might have one of the best arms in the minor leagues. However, his limited range has made some scouts think he will end up at first base, and the Orioles have tried them there simply because they have so many minor leaguers that are ready to make the jump at the infield positions that you need to have at least a little bit of flexibility in order to make a true impact for the Orioles. Should he end up outgrowing third base, which is what some evaluators do think will happen, he could very easily slide over to first base or play a corner outfield spot, which would give him a little bit more flexibility. I think he will end up in a corner outfield spot personally, simply because the Orioles have so many infielders, which at this point is talked about by every single prospect evaluator or baseball fan. The Orioles have so many great prospects in that infield that if they can move into a corner outfield spot, they're going to get a lot of value and a lot of power out of Coby Mayo long term. It's not like Mayo's a nobody prospect right now. He's in the top 30 for MLB.com and the top 25 for Baseball America, so he's definitely an up-and-coming, highly ranked prospect, but I wouldn't be shocked to see him potentially even have a better year than Jackson Holliday if they both break camp with the Orioles. At the time of this recording, through 4 games, Mayo is 4 for 6 with 2 doubles, 3 walks, and a 1.8 OPS. He's really doing a good job so far in a very small sample size, and although I don't think he will break camp with the Orioles, since he's not on the 40-man roster, I think by April or May, there's a non-zero chance that even without an injury, Mayo will force his way up to the major league level. The next player we'll talk about is also slightly overshadowed by another player in their system. In this case, it's Jared Jones, overshadowed by Paul Skeens. Jared Jones is a 6'1", 190 starting pitcher who has been a solid back end of a top 100 list guy for a couple years now. That being said, he's right on the cusp with making the major leagues, and it seems like he's improving every outing he pitches. Jones is another guy drafted out of the pandemic-shortened 2020 draft in the second round by the Pirates, and they signed him away over slot from his commitment to the University of Texas. In high school, he was a two-way guy, but the Pirates have exclusively focused his efforts on becoming a pitcher, and although he did have a lot of power and still does have a lot of power behind his fastball and his pitches, they tried to add a little bit more finesse into his craft of pitching, and so far it's been met with a lot of success. 2022 was a bit rough for Jones, as after a bad outing or a bad innings, it seemed like his command would start to slip, and a bad inning turned into a horrible inning. In 2023, he focused a little more on the mental side of things, becoming less fazed by a bad inning or a bad at-bat, and even adjusted the way he threw his changeup. Instead of pronating his wrist, he's now snapping it down. That mimics his fastball and now tunnels a lot better, which has really improved the pitch mix that he can use. Batters are now a lot more fooled as it is when pitches tunnel. It's harder to identify what is what. And Jones continues to make himself a really interesting play for a potential number 2 or number 3 starter in the long term. His fastball can almost touch 100. It's flirted with it at times, but it sits closer to the mid-90s, and it really is a very good pitch. It's one of the best fastballs in all the minor leagues. He has a really nice slider with a lot of late break, and again, that changeup is only getting better as he learns to tunnel it more and more with that plus fastball. He also has a decent curveball, and those 4 pitches really make a nice pitch mix that can really throw batters off based on Jared Jones' usage of each of the 4 pitches. As he's learned to keep his emotions in check and be more mature on the mound, he's really blossomed, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him really make a huge impact mid-season for the Pirates. There's even a chance he can break camp with them, as the Pirates don't have a super deep rotation, but given that he isn't on the 40-man roster just yet either, I don't foresee this happening. You can look at his StatCast page for his 1 inning of work so far in spring training to see exactly why he's a hype prospect. A 99-mile-an-hour fastball, a vertical break on that fastball of almost a foot, horizontal break approaching a foot as well, the sinker with a little bit more break both vertically and horizontally over a foot, a curveball with almost 5 feet of break. He has a lot of potential to have a devastating 4-pitch mix that can make him a good, not ace, but frontline starter on a team. Brooks Lee is the next name we'll talk about, and he is someone I like to characterize as Dustin Pedroia light. Pedroia, in my opinion, was a great player for a long time, and although I don't think Brooks Lee will be just as good as Pedroia was during his peak, I think he'll just be just a step below, and he will play for a major league team for a long, long time. The Twins took Lee with the 8th overall pick in the 2022 MLB draft out of Cal Poly, where he played for his father, Larry. He was injured a little bit in college, but after cementing himself as one of the best hitters in the 2022 draft class, the Twins really liked what they got and wanted to take him very early. They fast-tracked him through the minor leagues. He played as high as AAA in 2023 and is likely to make the major league roster at some point before the All-Star break in 2024. Lee's biggest calling card is the fact that he is a switch hitter who has a very good approach to the plate and can make really good contact on the ball. You can see after his junior season in college with a 1.125 OPS, and if you go through his minor league stats, you're going to see very similar numbers. Across 87 games in AA, he had a 841 OPS, and being young for the class in AAA, across 38 games, he had a 732 OPS, which is a little bit below league average, but again, for being young, only 2 years removed from college, that's definitely not a number to scoff at. He'll probably end up playing second base because of Carlos Correa and Royce Lewis, so he's most likely going to end up there simply because there's 2 really good players there, but Lee doesn't have a standout tool. His hit tool again is good, but nothing else really jumps out of the page. He'll hit for decent power, he could steal a couple bags, and he's a decent enough defender with okay arm strength that he'll be a major leaguer for a long time. When you look at Lee as a prospect, you're not excited because he's going to hit 40 or 50 home runs like you would see out of Coby Mayo, or he could touch 100 like Jared Jones almost can. You look at Lee and you say he's going to be a very good player for a long time, and that's someone that is very underrated in today's game. Chicks dig the long ball, but what's really going to win you a game is someone who's going to make a good defensive play when you need it, to get a clutch hit when it's necessary, and if they can hit a home run, they can hit a home run. Obviously, players like Aaron Judge are a huge asset to their team, but someone like Brooks Lee, who could have a 10, 15, 18-year career and maybe not make the Hall of Fame because they were a good player for a very long time, is almost more valuable than having a singular Aaron Judge. Of course, in no way am I saying Brooks Lee is going to be better or be more valuable than Aaron Judge, but contributions to a team in multiple ways is important, and Judge definitely has a lot of contributions and is going to most likely be a Hall of Famer. But I think people like Brooks Lee are going to be a little slept on when you look at his career 15, 20 years down the line and say he was a very good player for a long time and maybe he doesn't get the respect that he deserves. Lee has played in 2 games so far in spring training, going 2 for 6 with 2 singles and struck out once. Again, it's early on in spring training, so it's too early to really see exactly how he's doing against some major league pitching. And again, a lot of times you're not going up against major league pitching or playing more than an at-bat or 2 in a game. But I think Lee has the potential to be a very good player going forward. And given a couple more at-bats in spring training, I wouldn't be shocked to see him make a huge impact at the major league level. We'll now pivot back to the bump and the 2020 draft class as we talk about Tekoah Roby, a starting pitcher who the St. Louis Cardinals acquired at the 2023 trade deadline in the deal that sent Jordan Montgomery from the Cardinals to the Texas Rangers. Roby was a 3rd-round pick in that shortened draft, signed away from his commitment to Troy University for $775,000. Although there was always promise there, it was injuries that really slowed his development, and that's something you could say for almost all pitchers. He had an elbow sprain in 2021 and a shoulder injury sidelined him for more than the first half of 2023, so he only got in 4 starts with the Springfield affiliate of the Cardinals, their AA team, before getting innings in the Arizona Fall League. In those starts, though, he really impressed. His fastball hit 99 miles an hour in the AFL, and although it hovered around mid-90s, 93 to 96, the 4-seamer plays up really well as he has a lot of extension and it comes in at a very flat angle as Roby is only 6'1". I say only like that's not tall, but still, for a pitcher, that's decently short. He does a good job of incorporating his curveball in and fooling batters when they're expecting a fastball as it drops nearly straight downward and it has a very similar spin as his fastball does as well. A low 80s slider came in at the back end of his time with the Rangers, and it's something that the Cardinals are still trying to work on, but right now it's not really a plus pitch. His changeup's also not necessarily a plus pitch either, but it can generate whiffs when it's on, and when it's off, it can get hammered pretty hard. If he can refine that, he has a lot of potential. As I show you now a wild pitch, you'll see that he could use a little bit of work on his control and just getting a better repertoire with his catchers, but when he has control of his pitches, he's dominant. He will get strikeouts just like that, fooling batters with a changeup or a curveball in the middle of the zone. Roby has the potential to be a very good middle of the rotation starter, and if he can really stay healthy and get control of either his changeup or refine that slider a little bit more, he will be a very good pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals. At this time, he hasn't pitched in any spring training games, but the potential for him to be a very good pitcher going forward is decently high. He's currently a top 100 prospect on MLB.com's list, not on Baseball America's, but he's personally a top 100 prospect on my list, and I think he's going to be very good going forward. The last player we'll talk about is Blue Jays infielder Orelvis Martinez. He's someone who, just like Coby Mayo, is known a lot for his power and not necessarily his hit tool, but that's something that should carry him well into the major leagues. Martinez was an international signing out of the Dominican Republic for $3.51 million in 2018 and skipped the DSL and went straight to American Rookie League in the Gulf Coast in 2019, hitting for a respectable .275, .352, .549 in 40 games at age 17. He worked his way through the minor leagues, missing the 2020 season due to the pandemic as minor leagues were canceled during that season, and really struggled, spending all of 22 in AA and really hovering around the Mendoza line of a 200 average. That was really scary and put a lot of people off on Martinez, but he ended up rebounding pretty strongly in 2023. He hit well enough to get promoted to AAA in the middle of July and then also spent some time in the Dominican League this winter and put together a decent performance. He is a power over everything kind of hitter, but now that he's started to improve his bat-to-ball skills, his swing decisions, his ability to locate pitches inside and outside the zone, he's starting to have a more refined approach and can actually be someone who, maybe a good day, hit for average. His power is definitely undeniable. There's no doubt that Martinez is someone who is a very, very good power hitter, and that will be something that will be his calling card at the major league level. It's not as good as Coby Mayo's, in my opinion, but now that he's on Toronto's 40-man roster, he already has an option to use, so he'll have 2 heading into 2024. I think there's a non-zero chance that he makes his debut with the Blue Jays. At only 21 last year, he was 5 years younger than the average AAA player, and he still hit for an average that was about league average. He's someone who has had somewhat of a prospect fatigue since he was signed back in 2018, but he still has a lot of potential and is very young. Prospect fatigue is very common in international signings. Jason Dominguez is a great example. But if you look at his stats with a very low BABIP in 2022 and in 2023 having his walk rate jump from 8.1% to 14%, while his K percentage dropping by 8 full points, that's a lot to love about Orelvis Martinez. As with most Dominican players, they're technically signed as shortstops, and Martinez did get a very long run there because he has really good arm strength, but it looks now that he'll probably end up at the hot corner, being a potential Matt Chapman replacement now that he probably isn't coming back in free agency, but given that he's a Boras client, who knows if he will ever sign a contract again. There's also some thoughts of him staying at second base, but I don't think that's necessarily as likely since his arm strength is so good, but he is a little limited defensively as he doesn't have great range, so it might end up working out in his favor that if a ball gets shot up the middle or you need to turn a double play, he's the guy that'll get a little bit quicker from second to first. If he can go and just get a little more contact on the ball, he will naturally hit more home runs in Rogers Center. And if he can go ahead and just make better swing decisions like he did in 2023 this season, he will go ahead and be a very good major leaguer in the future. Across 3 games in spring training, he's 1 for 6 with 3 walks, which is a very good sign that he is walking more. Granted, again, the level of competition in spring training isn't the same at the major league level, but the fact that he has 3 walks across 9 appearances is very good with only 1 strikeout. So that is something that is very promising. 1 hit isn't great, but again, very small sample size. So we'll see how that develops as spring training goes on. I think if he doesn't make the team out of spring training, he will be one of the last cuts. Right now, the 2 biggest hurdles in his way of making the opening day roster are Santiago Espinal and David Schneider. I think Schneider has a better case simply because he had a very good end to 2023. Granted, BABIP and other factors played into that, but I have a hard time seeing with his defensive versatility playing the infield and outfield not being included. And Espinal is someone who I wouldn't be shocked seeing sent down, but you never know. He could also potentially push Isaiah Kiner-Falefa out of that third base slot and down into a bench role, but that's to be seen based on what the Blue Jays think is best for his development. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. I hope you enjoyed these 5 players who I think are going to break out during or after spring training. Go ahead and leave a comment down below who you think that prospect is going to be this season, and go ahead and subscribe to the channel as well to get more content from me and other great creators out there. It really means a lot. Thank you so much. Those 2 videos on the screen, go ahead and hit those, and I hope to see you in the next video.